It is 12:59. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica, and it is a done deal per Tom Pelissero of NFL Network. The Atlanta Falcons are trading former MVP quarterback Matt Ryan to the Indianapolis Colts for a 2022 third-round pick. Also, Mike Garofalo following up that report, saying that sources say Atlanta expected to pursue a reunion with Marcus Mariota and Arthur Smith. So the Marcus Mariota watch officially underway in ATL as Matt Ryan heads to the AFC South. The Titans officially announced the signing of former Browns tight end Austin Hooper on a one-year deal today. Hooper spoke to the media for the first time over at St. Thomas Sports Park.
I'm not here to say I'm going to get X amount of catches, yards, tugs, nothing. None of that. It's an opportunity to compete, get out there and get after it, help this team however I can.
Big news for Tennessee football as quarterback Nico Iamaleava, the five-star prospect out of Long Beach, California, announced his commitment to the University of Tennessee today. As part of the class of 2023, Iamaleava is the number 7 overall player in the country, the number 4 quarterback in his class, according to 24/7 Sports. It is NHL trade deadline day. The deadline coming up 1 hour from right now. The Preds have acquired 2 defensemen and a forward. However, nothing yet on Philip Forsberg. Multiple reports stating that there is not expected to be any news on that front and that he will remain a Predator for the remainder of the season. Forsberg scored his 211th career goal on Saturday, surpassing David Legwand for the franchise record in a win over Toronto. Women's hoops tonight, an in-state matchup with the Sweet 16 bid on the line. 12-seed Belmont, after beating Oregon in overtime, takes on the Lady Vols at Thompson Bowling Arena, a 6 p.m. tip. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once, and your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, good afternoon. Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone on a busy Monday. Lots of news. Obviously, I am not Mickey Ryan. He is off today. It's Rhett Bryan from Titans Radio, joined by the Hitman. It's his show, of course, Blaine Bishop. On the way, the ding-dong of the week. We'll have that by Mark Spain Real Estate. And in hour 2, John Glennon of Sports Illustrated to discuss Titans free agency moves. Blaine, between the NCAA tournament, the new year in the NFL, it's never a lack for topics, man. We're loaded.
Well, naturally, even during March Madness, the NFL is still dominating the ticker, even though, this weekend didn't a lot happen until today, really. If nobody knows, Matty Ice was traded to the Colts for, I think, third-round pick?
Third-round pick. That's pick 82 that they're getting.
Yeah, so there's still a lot of news. Baker Mayfield still out there in Wonderland. Watson's with Cleveland, as well as all the upsets and the hurt hearts there at Tennessee and everything else this past weekend with March Madness, which is always an exciting time. March Madness, you just never know, especially when you're talking about basketball, because if you go cold shooting, it doesn't matter who you play. And so, it's always like I'm cheering for the underdogs. But the Tennessee-Michigan game, it was one, that was going back and forth, and then, who was going to take control of the game. And then eventually I thought Tennessee had it. And then in the second half, for whatever reason, Michigan start gradually getting control as Tennessee couldn't hit perimeter shots. And then, then they couldn't guard the Dickinson guy down in the post. I mean, that was, man, he's a swing guy who doesn't have a lot of lift, to be honest, but he's really skilled, so he could put it on the deck. He played back to the basket as well as he could shoot threes. And that gave them problems. And then, and then I thought on offense, Tennessee didn't get that third score. They needed Vescovi or Fulkerson or somebody else to step up.
Like they had in the first game against Longwood.
And I thought James could have shot a little bit better in the second half, but he put up some points, as well as Chandler played phenomenal. You got to see why he is, what people think he's going to be in the NBA first-round pick. So I really just thought Michigan was the better team, really athletically. Now, sometimes that doesn't mean that team wins, because I thought their defense and their footwork staying in front of almost all Tennessee, everything was tough. And Vescovi couldn't even get a shot off. And so I thought Barnes should have made some decisions there, maybe bringing in Bailey, see what he could do sooner than later. He didn't play till like 4 minutes in the first half and didn't play at all in the second half. I thought he should have changed that up just to see if he can, create some, some scoring options. You just never know. Sometimes, you play against guys and they just got your number. And that's kind of where it was. So I would have reached in the bag and just see if I could do a little bit more of that.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of we've seen teams live and die by the three, and that's kind of what happened with Tennessee in that one.
Yeah.
Of course, Vols fans are mourning that loss and thinking that, their program's going to go deep into this thing. And with a tournament like that, one and done, it's just you find out, how tough it is. And then you see St. Peter's Peacocks that are the Cinderella slipper wearer right now. Wow. I mean, they take out Kentucky, they take out Murray State, and here they are in the Sweet 16, a 15 seed.
Man, are they verified yet?
They ought to be.
On Twitter. They weren't verified. And they said, can we get verified after the first upset? So exciting time. They couldn't even afford to take their cheerleaders to the game, that they're playing in. So that shows you what kind of program. I think their whole full budget for their entire season is less than $1 million. So there's a lot at stake there, and happy for those underdogs, and they deserved it. They worked hard, and they, and that's what you love about college basketball. Anybody can beat anybody if you get hot. If you have just enough weapons to put up some points, even if you're outmanned by size or athleticism, there's a part of teamwork and moving the ball and IQ and everything else that can help you in the process. Now, typically, the more athletic teams pull away eventually at some point, but sometimes if you hang around, you build that kind of confidence, you start knocking down shots, you just start believing it's our time.
And that's exactly what I feel like happened with Kentucky on Thursday night. Is they're scrappy. They just kept hanging around. They were fighting for rebounds. They were fighting for possessions. And I thought, well, there were some times where Kentucky were getting multiple offensive rebounds and putting shots up, but they weren't. A lot wasn't falling for them in spots. And I'm like, they got a chance. And then, of course, it took overtime. But their heart and their fight, man, against a team like Kentucky. I mean, you're right. They got hot at the right time. They're scrappy. They're aggressive. They're physical, they're gritty. I like them.
Yeah, so it's a fun time to be a sports fan, and then naturally we go back at the end here in the Titans and their moves. Rhett, you probably have a lot more insight on what you think about, some of those moves and all those moves that they made. I don't think we're going to be drafting a running back, though. Even though one of them's just a special team guy. I mean, we're 4 deep now, so I don't know about that. But, they made, typical John Robinson moves, waiting till the market kind of dies down and get some veteran players that are solid players. Probably not the big names that everybody wants, but these guys are quality football players. I'm just interested to see. He always goes for that undervalued, ACL injured guy with a trade that he picked up, a 6th-round pick, so he really is not giving up too much of anything. Who's a really good player. It's just that he's coming off an ACL once again, and that always makes me nervous. Coming off ACL. Now, if it was an lineman, I would probably be not as nervous. But when
brace it up and go,
right? You got to fight through it. And not to say you're not going to have any issues. Lawan is a perfect example of that. Yeah. But the skill guys from Dupree to wide receiver, DBs, a lot more torque and changing of directions. So that makes me a little bit nervous. But, man, you're talking about he hits all the points before the injury. For me personally, is like what I want my receivers to be. I've always talked about the measurables. I want my guy 6 feet. I want him a great route runner. I want him to be multiple. That means he's not only a great route runner, very athletic, also has enough speed to get deep, can run routes, and can also be a handoff guy who you can also hand the ball off. And in this offense, you do all those things, let alone you're tough and you can block. Man, the sky's the limit for him in this offense.
Well, when you see the news over the weekend that, John Robinson sent in a 2023 6th-round pick for Robert Woods, and you're right, the ACL, that's the red flag. Everybody's like, wait a minute.
Because it was November, right?
Yeah, and you saw reports that it was a clean tear. So hopefully that's what that was. In terms of, everybody's timeline and everybody's healing process is as different as their DNA is from each other.
Kind of explain that. What's the difference between a clean tear, partial tear, maybe other things were injured as well,
right,
or not in this case?
I think that's what the bottom line is, that it didn't affect any of the other ligaments. Because sometimes it'll be a tear that involves LCL, PCL, whatever, and apparently this one was a clean tear. And then I think about
but on that point, though, real quick, I saw him on the sidelines even at the Super Bowl. So I'm in the playoff games. He's walking around like nothing ever happened to him. Yeah, I saw him even
I'm okay
console.
with that.
I saw him even console OBJ when he got injured in the Super Bowl.
Right.
So I was really watching it. Just I don't know why I was watching, but they kept showing OBJ, and so he was there consoling him and walking around and just kind of staying by his side and trying to give him moral support.
So in the timeline, I think it was November 21st. I think is when he did
was
it.
it?
So, but when I'm thinking about Bud Dupree. Bud Dupree did his in December and didn't have the surgery till early January.
Oh, I didn't
So
know that fact.
he's 2 months in calendar, basically ahead of where Bud Dupree was. So the hope and the thought is that by the time camp rolls around, you're ready to roll with that. But to your point about these other moves, look, they signed Harold Landry, they re-signed Ben Jones, and then they pepper in all the things they signed kicker Randy Bullock to a 2-year deal. He fills a void that was shaky for a while there at the kicking game. The long snapper Morgan Cox was a big one to bring back because of that there. Jamarco Jones signed a multi-year deal, who's I think a swing tackle and swing player.
Let's stop right real quick. Do you think now they've got the offensive tackle? Because that's really the only position I'm still concerned with
as far as the right tackle.
What just are they done with offensive tackle in getting in free agency or even draft?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think this is where he's at yet. I don't think he's done there. I know we know about Jeff Swaim that he re-signed. Buster Screen comes back. I like that. Like that a lot. And then of course he signs Austin Hooper to a 1-year, $6 million deal per Tom Pelissero. And Austin Hooper addressed the media last hour and seemed like he's happy to be here. And his college quarterback, Kevin Hogan, who is on the Titans roster, and they both played together at Stanford. And he said he gave me the best, testimonial, if you will, about the locker room, the culture, the whole thing. Yeah. And then he had the parting shot. Somebody asked him about George Kittle because of the tight end university here in town. He goes, "Yeah, I don't want to catch him off guard, but if it's on record, I'll just tell George I'll probably be over there soon to start working out as a part of that ramps up in the summer." But I think the Austin Hooper signing is nice signing. Probably his worst year as a pro. Least amount of targets and catches, least amount of yardage, 3 touchdowns. It's the least he's had since his rookie year. And I'm not worried about any of that at all because Cleveland's going to do what Cleveland does. I like the idea of this guy. I liked him when the Titans played him in Atlanta in the week 4 of 2019, which was a big day for A.J. Brown. That was kind of one of his coming out party days early on. Austin Hooper had a great day that day. I think I'm just glad that they had addressed something with tight end, knowing how empty the tight end room has been up until this point before re-signing Jeff Swaim and now someone to go with him.
Do you think they, let alone address it in draft, I think they'll do that as well, but do you think they'll even consider bringing Ferguson back?
I think it's a possibility. I mean, you can certainly get him at the right price. I'll answer it that way. But there are tight ends in the middle rounds of this draft that can help you. I don't think there'll be anybody taken on Thursday night in first round, but rounds 2, 3, 4 in there, there's some good talent there to help you. Yeah. So, hey, what we're gonna do next is reveal our ding dongs of the week, presented by Mark Spain Real Estate. I've got mine. I think Lucas has his. You've got yours ready to go?
Yeah, I always got my ding dongs handy.
There it is. Hey, Mickey is out today. Rhett Bryan in for him with Blaine Bishop here on Blaine and Mickey. We'll be back in just a moment on 104.5 The Zone. Oh, yeah. Blaine and Mickey, 1045 The Zone. Blaine off today. Rhett Bryan in for him. I'm here. And Blaine is here. For sure. Yeah, it's his show.
No, you said Blaine's off today.
Oh, I said I don't know what I'm doing. Mickey's off today. Blaine's here.
Yeah.
I think I'm partially here just by what I just said.
Blaine, that was your cue to just beat Mickey until 3 o'clock.
Speaking of ding-dongs right there.
Yeah, there it is.
Well, since we're giving out, personal ding-dongs to each other, I'm going to give myself a ding-dong because Lucas tried to forewarn me about having UT, and not only in my Final Four, but as the championship. And I got him winning it, so my bracket is ruined. But I still have Gonzaga. I had Kentucky as well in the Final Four, but I still have Gonzaga and Kansas in the Final Four. But man,
I got news for you. There's plenty of ding dongs out there with bracket busting problems today.
There, man. Which then leads me to my other ding dong, which is Baker. Stay off the Twitter finger handle Mayfield. He may have messed up so bad here in this situation instead of being quiet like Matty Ice, a veteran. So I wonder where agents, advisors, people you rely on for advice that are supposed to be a lot smarter than you, where were they at? They should have told him don't touch that dial, don't touch Twitter.
Yeah.
Because that might have really been a finale to getting him really out of there. And I think Cleveland went back to the drawing board and said, you know what, we going all in. And then because I for sure thought he was going to Atlanta, and that's Deshaun Watson. Especially since he was from the area. That's what a lot of people were saying anyway behind the scenes. But now he's out there in Wonderland. He could possibly end up being a guy competing for a job or maybe even backup. He's got to be careful here because if Seattle, and I think that's really it because there's a connection there with someone on the staff or in the organization. When he was drafted by Cleveland, they worked for Cleveland at the time. After that, I don't know where he's going. So
it sounds like New Orleans is going back with famous Jameis.
Jameis, yeah.
So that leaves Carolina and Seattle pretty much.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you could just stick with Sam Darnold. So I think, what makes Baker such a great player and competitor in his fight also is his detriment. That's with most people. He's, looking at this whole situation as a competitor and that they don't believe in him. Behind the scenes, we don't know what they were telling him. They said they were going to give him a long-term deal. Then you saw him talking to Watson. Then he got mad and everything else. But sometimes keeping your trap shut when it comes to situations like this is probably the best thing, and keeping your feelings close to the vest.
Yeah,
so
silence can be a winner sometimes. You're right about that.
I got to give Baker his natural huge-sized ding-dong.
Lucas, what is your ding-dong of the week, sir?
I think my ding-dong of the week is a franchise, the Atlanta Falcons. How have the Atlanta Falcons gone from being a contender to land Deshaun Watson as their next franchise quarterback to now being without a quarterback, eating the most dead cap money in NFL history by trading away Matt Ryan over $40 million, not having a wide receiver right now? Kyle Pitts, the second-year tight end, is all he got to throw to. And the offensive line problems continue from last season to this season. They haven't been addressed in any way. I don't know that any franchise in the NFL has gotten worse in this offseason and has given their head coach less to work with than the Atlanta Falcons. And next thing you know, Arthur Smith might be having a quarterback that he benched in Tennessee as his new starter in Atlanta.
That is the rumor. Marcus Mariota to the Atlanta Falcons to reunite with Arthur Smith. We'll see what happens. My ding-dong is a guy that I'm sure has been a ding-dong in this segment many times before, and that would be the former Jacksonville head coach, Urban Meyer. If you haven't seen it, man, you got to circle back to this. Mike Sando and Jason Jenks at The Athletic came back with a damning piece against Urban Meyer in his short tenure as the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And one veteran member of the football operations staff, quote, the most toxic environment I've ever been a part of, by far, not even close. Wow. Now, the difference in this and what we heard from before is this thing is littered with quotes from wide receiver DJ Chark, who is now a Detroit Lion. And, oh, yeah, here we go. So here is a couple of excerpts from this. He burst into a room full of players at the Jaguars facility. He was furious. One of his players had missed an assignment during a preseason game, leading to a busted play. He was enraged when it happened, and a day later was still fuming. If the mistake ever happened again, he warned he would cut every single one of them. And do you know what would happen if I cut you guys? Quote, you guys couldn't get a job paying more than $15 an hour. DJ Chark says Meyer routinely threatened to fire coaches and cut players. Quote, he feels like threats are what motivates. I know he would come up to us and tell us if the receivers weren't doing good, he was going to fire us. He was going to fire our coach. He would usually say that when the coach was around. But the thing that I really want to give him a ding-dong for is by multiple sources said Meyer was unfamiliar with players around the league, including 49ers receiver Deebo Samuel, Seahawks safety Jamal Adams, and Rams defensive tackle Aaron Donald.
What?
Quote, who's this 99 guy on the Rams? Meyer asked one staffer during the season, according to a source. Quote, I'm hearing he might be a problem for us. Blaine, if you're that insulated in your own world, how do you not know the NFL's best defensive player for years in Aaron Donald, future Hall of Famer? Go ahead and give him the gold jacket. How do you not know him? What are you that insulated in your own world that you don't know? I mean, how are you going to know your opponent if you're planning film and preparation of those things if you don't know their best player and the best defensive player in the league?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say this. I don't know Urban Meyer, and he's actually been a ding-dong before, especially for me. Give him a ding-dong. But in this situation, I'm not sure the context of what you just said last was him being a motivator. So someone can take that, what he said about Aaron Donald, and say that on a practice field. Who is this guy? Like, you better know who he is because...
Okay, that's fair.
So we could, if we want to keep throwing shots at him, that's okay too. I don't know what the context of the whole conversation was about Aaron Donald. I would be surprised that going into the week after watching film that he had no idea who Aaron Donald is, especially since he was more of an offensive guy than a defensive guy. So I don't know if he thought those tactics work in motivating, as Chark said there, in all the things he would do to threaten. And it sounds like to me that's a coach who hasn't transformed to being an NFL coach and then a college coach. And those are the difference. You're dealing with grown men, and they know this is a profession, and you don't have to threaten them by anything. You know how you threaten a professional athlete? You bring somebody in his position, say, let's go to work.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have
somebody
to do
breathing
any of that.
down your neck. Right.
Right. So you don't have to do any of those tactics. So I think he was really lost in who he is, to your point, and how to motivate. And maybe he didn't know who Aaron Donald is, but I just, I'm not surprised at all if anything comes out of there about, Urban Meyer that's going to be anything positive at this point.
Well, you framed it right in the fact that he'd had great success, multiple national championships in college. Never take that away from him.
No doubt.
He did that.
No doubt.
But that doesn't always make that applicable at the next level.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing. I think there was such a disconnect, or his ego thought that he was just going to do whatever. Here's another piece from this story in The Athletic. In his first staff meeting, criticized the way that NFL teams operate. Said specifically that coaches fail to take proper care of players' health, and then says in front of scouts in the room, I hate scouts. Scouts are lazy. In training camp, Meyer pushed for live contact drills despite objections from veteran coaches. One of those drills fell on what Meyer called winner and loser days. Two players would compete. The winner would be announced over the loudspeaker. After one blocking drill, Meyer insisted that DJ Chark do extra reps. The receiver suffered a broken finger, underwent surgery, and missed the preseason. He also forbade players from speaking with opponents on the field before games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like college type stuff. Now, I get once we go out there as a team and we warm up, naturally that doesn't happen. But before the game and all, I just, this is pros. It's a different tact. So I just think he was lost in all that. And that was really my big concern with him as a coach in adapting to the NFL model. which is totally different. And all the coaches who do transfer from college to pro have to adapt or they won't have success because guys are grown and they know when you're trying to pull the wool over their eye and you tell them a bunch of BS, to be honest. And they're not going to say anything because they're pros, but they're going to be like, hey, man, what's the heck is going on, man? This guy has no clue.
Yeah, you lost me at whatever you said.
Right, boom,
quote.
it's over. So then
because
you're
right, they're grown men. Most of them are married, have children, families, whatever, or just, for lack of a better term, people that are depending on them, and they earn a paycheck just like you do. Yeah. So that's a different deal. Yeah, now, of course, NIL is changing that, but but and what he's used to, let's put it that way.
Yeah. So I'm glad. They moved on. Unfortunately, not glad that they did from a Titans perspective. But
no,
I just all the negativity out of there was just it was draining me. I couldn't imagine being covering them, let alone being on the field with all that drama every week. There was something
amazing how that went exactly how everybody thought it would.
Yeah, it did,
and maybe even some cases even worse.
Even worse, yes.
Because, the stuff that was coming out there periodically, I'm like, this guy thinks he's going to change the shield. The shield changes you. You know it. You played it.
That puts it in really perspective right there. He thought
that NFL shield changes you.
Yeah.
It's like those old jokes. In Russia, basketball plays you, or whatever. The NFL is a powerhouse for a reason.
Yeah.
You don't go in there with grandiose ideas that you're going to change this and that and the other because you're going to be sadly disappointed. It's just not how it works.
It's all about business, and it's all about winning and how you go about your business. So with that being said, we just see what happened here with Deshaun Watson and how if your talent outweighs what they think, if we punish you to a certain extent when that happens, because they're going to do something.
I would think so.
And Cleveland could say they did their own investigation on that. I don't know what that entails. Might have been having a conversation with Deshaun Watson and his agent, making sure they guarantee his money and put everything pushed back and there's a signing bonus where he doesn't have to pay a lot if he does get penalized or fined for missing games. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out because at some point he's going to miss some games. I know they have Jacoby Brissett, so he's going to hold the fort whenever that happens, whether it's in the middle of the season, beginning, or the end, and when Watson is there. So it
Baker's just on the outside looking in.
Yeah, as bad as that sounds and how much they had to give up to get him.
Yeah.
And with all these 20 or so women, part of this whole lawsuit is just kind of mesmerizing, and to get a contract like that and guaranteed, it shows you exactly what's important to the National Football League. And not only that, more so to the Cleveland Browns, who actually made a decision, all the other teams that were interested in as well, because even though they lost in the fight for him, they still wanted him. And that's his value stayed high over this whole time after missing an entire season, by the way.
And that's just the teams that were reported.
Right.
There probably were more.
That's right.
Because you know it. It's a quarterback league. You either have them or you don't, right?
Yeah.
We have breaking news.
Breaking sports news on 104.5 The Zone.
The New Orleans Saints are reuniting with an old friend. From Tom Pelissero, they are signing quarterback Jameis Winston to a 2-year deal with a base value of $28 million.
Oh, time to eat those dubs. That's all I think about with him in New Orleans.
I know, man. No, all I think about is his crazy videos that he tweets out.
Well, he does now, doesn't he?
They're so funny, man.
Jameis,
especially the ones in the backyard
he's
where
a
he's
real
against some
personality.
dummies and people hitting him and everything, man.
He's a real personality, though. I mean, never a dull moment with him. Well, that kind of fills in what we thought there, because that had been reported that maybe that was going to be a thing, and as soon as they were out of the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, if you will, for lack of a better term. Eric in Nashville's been hanging on the line here at 615-737-1045, the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline, and he wants to give us his ding-dong of the week. Eric, go ahead, sir.
Hey, guys, I actually have two. My first one has to go to the San Diego Padres for signing Fernando Tatis to that huge contract. He, of course, goes out, rides a motorcycle, gets hurt, and now he's out for 3 months or longer. Guys, you don't do your due diligence as an organization to make sure he's not doing anything like that, because most teams have in their contract that you can't do stuff like that, like ride motorcycles or hang gliding, parachuting, cliff diving. Even they don't want you playing pickup basketball games in case you get hurt. And sure enough, he goes gets hurt, and you get a ding-dong for not doing your due diligence to find out if he's doing something dangerous like that. The other ding-dong has got to go to the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, and their entire organization for the handling of the Randy Gregory contract situation. guys, look, I understand what you were trying to do because of the fact that he's had some issues where he's got some drug suspension and everything like that. My problem is not that you put it in the contract, the timing of that you decide to stick it in at the last minute. If you're going to do that, you got to do that up front, not after you've done the contract and then, oh, by the way, at the last minute, we're going to do this. If you're going to do that, you got to do it up front and make it clear. It just boggles my mind that you didn't do that. Of course, he signed with Denver, and that's, of course, something they potentially have to deal with, and they may put it in this next contract if he screws up again. Y'all guys take care.
All right, Eric, thank you. A couple of ding-dongs from Eric there. I don't know that I disagree with either one of them.
No, I completely agree with him.
So,
we always have some great ones. He's
something he's a good caller, always a good caller. Something I haven't discussed from an NFL standpoint, John Clayton of ESPN and longtime Seattle resident and a guy who's covered this league for a long, long time, passed away suddenly at the age of 67 over the weekend. Really sad for a lot of folks in the NFL. Always very kind to me, kind with his time. And, before Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport and Pelissero and these guys, he was the guy that worked the Rolodex. Mm-hmm. He was, pre-social media. You waited to see what his hit was on SportsCenter to see what he had digging around in the rumor mill. But a nice man and well-respected and liked amongst his peers and even players. I saw players responding to that.
Oh, no doubt about it. Prayers up to the Clayton family. It just shows you how big he is. The NFL even put out a statement. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did something in his honor. I know he was doing Seattle radio. I talked to him on occasion, so I had no idea he had some, I guess, health issue. You would never know. He was still doing radio still today. So, yeah, man, he was really a gentle guy. And when I say that, I'm talking about he was always conversational, whether he was writing a piece on you or about you or about someone else. He was always informed and would always look at different views. And that's what I respected a lot about him in a mild-mannered way that really connected with most people because I felt like he was the people. Man, he had a lot of respect, as you could see, over social media, that he kind of took over social media with all the interacting. I was so mad because I was looking for my old phone to try to file out a picture with me and Clayton having conversation. But, man, he was a gentle giant, and he was really big in his arena and well-respected amongst, at all types of, from the media to the National Football League to the actual players and coaches. So I think he hit all the bases there, and everyone loved him and respected him. So
generally a kind person to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot of people talking about him on Twitter saying he made me feel like I was the most important person.
And it was
person
genuine.
He was talking to at that
too.
point. Yeah, it was. It was very sincere. But sorry to hear about him passing. That leaves a void there because he did a podcast. He's done radio for years and television and those things. But John Clayton, no longer with us. Wow.
Man, that's crazy.
Let's go back to the phones here, 615-737-1045. Bill in Lebanon, who is your ding-dong of the week?
Hey, guys. Don't know his name. I apologize. It's the ref that called the technical foul for hanging on the rim, the Illinois game.
All right.
It's just unbelievable. Reggie Miller, I thought, was hilarious. He was dead on. It was a horrible call. I mean, these referees, I think overall in general, the tournament has been pretty poor reffed, and especially that call. That's just a horrible, horrible call.
I think that's a good one, Bill.
About the refereeing, I guess, in all these tournament games. I guess the games I watched, I didn't really see a lot of it. You can always be critical. It's a tough job.
I'm with you. I didn't see everything this weekend,
right.
so I must have not seen the controversial moments because yesterday was so nice outside. I did some yard work.
Yeah, I was outside the whole entire time yesterday, and then I was all in on the UT game, so I watched that game because I knew naturally we were going to be talking about it. But other than that, I hadn't really been watching all of them in detail like that. But a lot of people are complaining about the refereeing is kind of taking over March Madness a little bit more than people expected, and determining games.
It was the Baylor North Carolina game that really was.
I was listening to that on the radio.
Yeah, the second half that was pretty brutal. Baylor, crazy 25-point comeback to come back and force overtime, then ultimately lose. But that call, that was going to be mine until everything with the Falcons today was the hanging on the rim, which is almost always just the most dreadful call in a basketball game because the player is either A, trying to avoid landing on top of another player, or B, trying to not immediately let go and land on his head because his feet are swinging upward. And that's what happened in the case of the Illinois player. I thought that was tough.
Did it determine kind of how the game trajectory of the game went, or it was critical time?
No, that dunk made it like a 2-point Houston lead, and then Houston got the ball and then kind of ran away with it and won ultimately by 14, 16 points. So, no, not necessarily.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the University of Tennessee in a different sport. Quarterback, a 5-star quarterback has landed with the Vols. And we'll roll into hour 2 with our friend John Glennon of Sports Illustrated to discuss all the Titans free agency moves. He's Blaine Bishop. I'm not Mickey Ryan. I'm Rhett Bryan, in for Mickey, who's off today. More of your calls and questions, 615-737-1045, when Blaine and Mickey return next. Wrapping up hour one of Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone. Rhett Bryan in for Mickey Ryan. Today, Blaine Bishop, the hitman, is always here. And lots of stuff to work through. NCAA tournament well underway. Sweet 16 happening again this coming weekend. NFL signings left and right. Austin Hooper, the new tight end for the Titans, just spoke to the media back at the noon hour and appears to be ready to roll.
Lucas? I'm sorry not to cut you off.
That's all right.
You got any quotes from him? Yeah, maybe we'll play some of that because I didn't hear his, his
availability.
Yeah, his conversation there. I'd love to hear what he sounds. Besides, naturally, everybody's going to be happy to sign with a team. But I will be more curious. I'm sure someone asked him what happened with his drop in performance. Now, I think he missed some games too, but just in general, was it more the offense, the quarterback, why he didn't get as many targets compared to his time in Atlanta? You know, it's some of the same things OBJ was actually saying about Baker Mayfield too. So why all of a sudden did he have a drop as well?
Yeah.
I think he showed that he is a quality tight end in this league, and the numbers aren't matching it. So I'd be curious to see how he would have addressed that if someone asked him. I know you weren't available, so you didn't get a chance to ask.
Do you have anything along those lines, Lucas?
He's looking right now.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
he's okay.
Yeah. So,
but Austin Hooper, I'm just looking at his production. He still
solid NFL
averages
starting,
over 10 yards per catch.
Yeah.
Thing I look at in his career, 31 plays of 20 yards or longer, X plays. 31. 4 of 40 plus. You see some of the explosive production there, and I'm not saying he's like the end all be all, but I mean that's what you want to see out of that position with the way this offense is set up.
Well, I think what you're addressing is like, okay, he's not a phenomenal super duper talent like let's say Kyle Pitts, but he is a quality, very athletic, break tackles, tough, can block, can do everything you're asking as well as catch and run after catch. I've seen numerous times break tackles after maybe a short catch and then in the open field end up taking that to a score. So I think they did a great job. To be honest, I wish we could have got him for like 2 or 3 years, but I'm sure the numbers would have increased at some point. Maybe they wanted to say, okay, if you play well, then he's going to outprice himself and then he won't be back with the team. Because 1 year for me is just not enough when I'm thinking I'm trying to build something that we got another
small enough
window.
Sample size.
Right.
Yeah.
And
he'll be 28 in November. So, I mean, there's some things to consider there, but maybe there's a chance if he likes it here well enough, maybe they tack on something after hopefully a really good 2022.
Right, no doubt.
Here's new Titans tight end Austin Hooper and his availability today about his role as a Cleveland Brown last year.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely some frustration there. I mean, I'd be wondering why, they gave me the deal and they wasn't really involved that much. But at the end of the day, I mean, I've always been the type of player to accept the role that I've been asked to do. And in Cleveland, it was to be a predominant run blocker and split reps and split time with other guys. So, I mean, I always value myself as a good teammate first and foremost. So, again, like whatever my role is here, I'll accept it and do my best to excel.
Austin Hooper, they gave him the money as a free agent a couple of years ago out of Atlanta, former Falcon. And they drafted David Njoku out of Miami 4 years ago. So they franchise tag Njoku, which that's straight $10 million. And so you figure between those two, when they did that, I was like, well, they're not going to keep both those guys. Right. That's a lot of money to tie up at tight end. So Austin Hooper is the victim there. Cut on Thursday, signed on Saturday, and available here on 104.5 The Zone. So good stuff.
Fell right into John Robinson's lap, actually getting a player of value, which I think he's more valuable than the $6 million based off the other players and the salaries. And I think they're getting away with a steal, whether he has a season like he was with Cleveland or he comes back to being shown somewhere in between where he got the targets and receptions there in Atlanta. So I thought that was a really good sign. And I'm hoping Robert Woods, all his skill sets tell you great. I just, the hesitation is always with an ACL. So I think both of those signings fit perfectly into the culture and what type of players they're looking for. A lot of people aren't going to be jumping for joy because they're not really big name
splash
guys.
Sign.
Sign. And I'm cool with that. I like these quality players. You start building teams like that and continue to add in guys like that. Next thing you know, you have a lot of high quality type players, borderline Pro Bowl players that eventually show out when they get the opportunity when everybody's focused on the star players.
I like the Robert Woods trade because you didn't give up a lot to get him. A 6th rounder next year, I'd sure do it.
They picked up a 6th rounder too, by the way, so they had 2. Is that one of the ones they gave up?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they didn't lose very much.
Robert Woods' nickname, I love it, Bobby Trees.
Oh, Bobby Trees.
Bobby Trees. Robert Woods. Bobby Trees.
Bobby Trees. Okay. you into that. But I'm just and I hate that people underestimate chemistry. So he will not be able to practice based off of your conversations with people there afterwards. Say maybe not till training camp. Let's just say that. And then he'll probably be on a limited basis. Yeah. Let's just say that. So all off season, whatever they do or don't do, he won't be a part of that, getting chemistry besides conversation and watching film. But that's not the same as out there actually execution. And I think Tannehill is that kind of quarterback. Some are better at it than others. But as long as he's buying into being really precise and specific and based off of his skill set, I think he is. And when I say that is because he's a great route runner. So he values those things in an offense more so than an elite level talent like Julio Jones. And by the way, I was never a big fan of that trade, as I said numerous times, especially for a 2nd round pick. But I just wouldn't have done it. Receivers don't change teams like that, elite guys like that. They typically contribute. Now, did I think he have an opportunity if he stayed healthy to contribute in the playoffs? Yes, and that still really didn't come to fruition like that either as well. I still think he has some years in it. I don't think the system fit what he does best. I think like if he went to Tampa Bay, Julio Jones, I do think he fits that offense. They are a vertical style running offense, and Tom Brady lets it fly.
Or does he go to Indianapolis and reunite with his old quarterback now that Matt Ryan
and that
is a Colt?
That's a great idea right there, Rhett. I mean, man, I hadn't even thought about that yet because it just happened today. But yeah, I think that's perfect because they know one another and they know how to excel and feed off of one another, and they just know each other so well that it's almost
they don't have to think about it. You just knock the rust off and go, right?
Yeah. So no doubt. And so we'll see. People always undervalue scheme and system and fit, but I value that really. A whole lot, because sometimes that can make or break a player. As we were just talking about here with rounding back around with Hooper, I just think he just said it while I was sharing, the reps with other tight ends. And basically he was trying to say in a nice way, I really wasn't featured because I was in a running style offense where they ran even more than the Titans to a certain extent. And then they really didn't use the Titans, but for more blocking. So I think those things mean a lot. So we'll see what his production will be, but he's a quality player. So all the fans who are not happy for a splash guy, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised of his production when the season's all over.
I agree, and I'm looking forward to that as well. And we're looking forward to the 2nd hour of Blaine and Mickey. Rhett Bryan in for Mickey Ryan as we continue next on 104.5 The Zone.
It is 2:01. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica. Big trade in the AFC South. Tom Pelissero to report the done deal. The Falcons are trading former NFL MVP quarterback Matt Ryan to the Indianapolis Colts for a 2022 third-round pick. Ari Myrov adds that the Falcons will take on a $40.5 million dead cap charge by trading Ryan away. That's the largest in NFL history. Mike Garofalo of NFL Network followed it up with the report that it's time for Marcus Mariota watch in Atlanta. Sources telling him Atlanta expected to pursue a reunion with Marcus Mariota and former Titans offensive coordinator, Falcons head coach Arthur Smith. Also in New Orleans, a reunion as Jameis Winston and the Saints have closed in on a 2-year deal for Winston to return to NOLA. Tennessee picked up a massive quarterback commitment earlier today. Nico Iamaleava out of Long Beach, California, part of the class of 2023, a 5-star prospect, rated the number 7 player in the country. The number 4 quarterback in his class, according to 247 Sports, is headed to play for Josh Heupel and the Vols. The NHL trade deadline has passed us about 2 minutes ago. No major moves for the Preds, most notably Philip Forsberg remains in Nashville for the remainder of the season. Forsberg just scored his 211th goal on Saturday to surpass David Legwand for the franchise record in career goals in a win over Toronto. Preds are at the Anaheim Ducks tonight. That's a 9 p.m. puck drop. In women's hoops, an in-state matchup with the Sweet 16 bid on the line. 12-seed Belmont, after upsetting Oregon in overtime in the first round, takes on the Tennessee Lady Vols in Thompson Bowling Arena in Knoxville tonight at 6. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour 2, Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. I am not Mickey Ryan. Mickey is out today. I'm Rhett Bryan from Titans Radio.
No, that's your other voice. You're playing as though you're Rhett. No, it is Mickey.
I bet you could do a Mickey Ryan.
Okay, you do a Mickey Ryan? Because you do so many voices here at the stage. I don't even know if people know all the talents that you do here. But, man, being on radio and on air is just one of the many things that you do.
I have like 8 of them right here.
So let's get prompt 2. Give us a Mickey introduction onto the show. You do Mickey's voice if you can.
I don't know how to do a Mickey Ryan. That's a good question.
Oh, you can't do a Mickey Ryan?
Let him go back and study it.
Yeah, I would have to study it. You're right.
Do you want to hear one, Blaine?
Yeah, let him hear Mickey talking then.
Oh, I was going to show you another one of Rhett's voices.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead and do that too.
Hello, my name is Borat.
That's the only one you got. I want to hear like a culmination of a whole bunch of them.
Oh, I've got plenty. We'll be here all day.
Give me 5, man. We got to come up with a nickname for him with all those voices he can do, man. That's a talent in itself.
So I tell you somebody that the Tennessee Volunteers Nation is having a good time with today that has talent is their 5-star quarterback recruit that announced this morning he will be a Volunteer, and that is Nico Iamaleava.
Iamaleava.
Yeah, Iamaleava. That's right. Thank you. 5-star recruit, first 5-star quarterback since Casey Clausen, and I think before that would have been Peyton Manning. But and this guy will get a huge NIL deal because there is an NIL factory basically up there in Knoxville with a company they partner with to kind of Spire Sport to do those things. So I'm sure you will see lots of dough thrown at the feet of this young man, but he gets comps of the aforementioned Marcus Mariota in college. Now let me say this: we know Marcus got dinged up in the pro game here as a Titan, but as an Oregon Duck,
he's
I mean,
as an Oregon Duck, he won the Heisman, so he's better than Herbert.
I mean, he was. They were in national championship playoffs, all that stuff. I mean, so when Vols fans hear that, they're like, okay, yeah, let's do this.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Oh, Marcus is a heck of a. I mean, man, he was the best of the best. You don't go second,
right? And win the Heisman and all that. Exactly. They won a bunch of games.
So this is probably the straw that broke the camel's back on now showing what Heupel can do in his offense and what he can attract. And that then will attract other players at other positions that are rated really high and then want to play for the Tennessee Vols. So that's exciting news. I think everybody should be pumped up about it. And, hopefully when he gets on campus, he still has another year, right? Or is he
I'm not sure.
Class of 2023.
Okay,
so, yeah,
2023.
Kendon Hooker's your starting quarterback.
There you go.
Taven Jackson will arrive on campus, the four-star.
He's from Indianapolis.
Yes, yeah, his brother plays for IU, the basketball team. But, 2023, it'll be Taven Jackson and Iamaleava battling it out.
Yeah. Well, you must not forget, though, we also have another guy there. Some guy named Milton. Yeah, he'll be there next year, too.
That's right. Last year of eligibility, I believe, coming up this – actually, I might be wrong. He might have 2 years of eligibility.
I think he has 2 more years left.
Yeah, that'll be interesting how that plays out.
Yeah.
But you're right. His ability to be able to recruit is starting to show now. And I think he'd been good at that to begin with. But I'm interested, as you are, to see who comes to play ball for the Volunteers now that this guy's in the fold.
Oh, yeah. You want to follow a winner and a great player. It starts at the quarterback, as we all know, even at the college, high school level.
That is correct. So if you're just joining us, the one thing that broke right before we went on air is that the Atlanta Falcons have traded away their star quarterback in Matt Ryan to the Indianapolis Colts for the 3rd-round pick that belonged to the Colts. That is pick number 82 overall. So the Falcons, Arthur Smith, Terry Fontenot, the GM, have an arsenal of picks in this thing, and including, Blaine, 5 picks in the first 90 selections. 8th overall in round 1, 43rd overall in round 2, pick 58 in round 2 that came from the Titans trading for Julio Jones, pick 74 in round 3, and 82 in round 3.
Man, and they need quarterback, they need offensive line, they need some more weapons.
Let alone wide receiver.
Right, wide receiver. And, I'm sure they need something on defense as well. So they have a lot on their plate, and that's why you're hearing a lot of Marcus Mariota. Maybe it'll be a stopgap guy there and improve it, and they keep it moving. I don't know where they are with the evaluation of some of the quarterbacks coming out. They probably didn't even look at them real closely like they maybe are now because they had Matty Ice. I just don't know if they think if they're trying to move forward, or do they think these guys are franchise quarterbacks, or is it worth that kind of money? Maybe they, hone that in and maybe get some more picks because people are afraid that they're going to take them to one of those quarterbacks in 8th round and get some more picks. You just never know how this all is going to play itself out, but they got to have a safety valve, and I would think Marcus, knowing the offense already, if they can keep him upright, we all know, and we're all fans of Marcus and want him to have a lot of success. I think that would be a great fit. I'm glad they're in the NFC. But I am getting a little nervous, not to talk about the Falcons, about the Colts, by the way.
Yeah, with Matty Ice.
With Matty Ice. And I think you mentioned it now. He's under a roof once again. If he gets protection, so they need a tackle and they need some more weapons for him on the wide. But we all know it's built around their offensive line and the running back.
And I saw Darius Leonard during our commercial break already on Twitter trying to recruit Julio Jones. Hey, you guys were boys. Come on.
Oh, no. You know what? You just gave me chill bumps because I just got nervous because I saw what Josh Reynolds did when he went to Detroit, and I'm thinking,
and ended up getting a nice deal out of that.
And then certain offense, it fits, and I think, man, this one here, you add Julio with a couple, really good weapons on the other side of him. I still think he has something left in the tank. I think he's a quality player. I don't think he's the, future Hall of Fame type player that he used to be. He is going to get in the Hall of Fame first ballot, no doubt about that. And I think he's got the right mindset. I just think he has to be in the type of offense. And I think they throw vertical, and I think Wright uses their receivers to their skill set. So, man, that would – I'm sure Julio would like that. All players like to play against their former teams to see if they made a bad decision.
And there's another one right there that played with this quarterback nearly his whole career with those home games indoors.
You the one made me aware of that. Matty Ice and Julio, man, with the Colts. And if they draft a receiver, the Colts are a viable threat in the AFC South. They were before, but now you're putting some pieces together, I believe, with Matty Ice, and you're going to get some receivers, and they'll be rookies, but depending on how high you go with taking some, if you understand what your team is, an offensive tackle, maybe even another position on the offensive line. But, man, I'm really honing in on Adam Reich, and it could be
Well, and
something
I'm with
different.
you. Their defense, I don't think there's a whole lot to be done
They could
there.
always go for a corner or
Yeah, and they traded
lineman.
away Rock Ya-Sin the other day to get
right.
Yannick Ngakoue
Ngakoue.
from the Raiders. So, but they got a lot of good players on defense. That if I'm a Colts fan, I'm not worried about that one as much.
You get
Yeah.
a quality veteran on the market. So, with all that being said, we're all talking about Arthur Smith and the Falcons, but I'm more concerned who we play twice a year, and that's the Indianapolis Colts. So I'm interested to see where this goes because a lot of people in the National Football League, and I'm talking about referring to the players, follow really good quarterbacks and elite quarterbacks. And so maybe that opens up maybe another veteran receiver besides Julio if he's interested to match up back up with Matty Ice. I know if I'm him, that would be at the top of my list. I want to go somewhere somebody knows me. Get that understands me and how I like to get open, how I like to move, and where I like the ball play.
Well, yeah, there's a comfort level there.
Yeah,
That
it's
you just
nothing you can't-
kind of
yeah.
plug and play.
How many
you can't
years did they
explain
play
it.
together?
Well, let's see. He was a
Julio's
draft pick in
9 years?
2011, and so yeah, I guess 9
I'm
years.
just guessing off the cuff. Man, it just wow.
Enough reps where it wouldn't be a thing. It wouldn't be a concern in
Yeah.
terms of those two and chemistry and all that stuff.
I bet that hamstring ain't sore if he went to the Colts against the Titans. I guarantee.
We're gonna get some
as Charles
thoughts.
Barkley would say.
We're gonna get some thoughts from our friend John Glennon of Sports Illustrated. On the other side, he'll be with us to talk Titans free agency and also pro day at Pitt today. So small hands. Kenny Pickett is throwing. But guess who's there? Pat O'Hara, the quarterback coach of the Tennessee Titans, and Ryan Cowden, the player personnel director.
Yeah.
John Robinson's right-hand man are at Pitt's pro day today. Now, there's other prospects there, but Kenny Pickett would be, okay. We'll see. Yeah. We'll talk about maybe what quarterback draft looks like, but certainly on the other side as we continue hour 2 of Blaine and Mickey. Rhett Bryan in for Mickey Ryan. John Glennon of Sports Illustrated joins us next on 104.5 The Zone. Blaine and Mickey, 1045 The Zone. He is the 4-time Pro Bowler, Blaine Bishop, the Hitman. I am Rhett Bryan, not Mickey Ryan, who is off today. And we are rolling through hour 2 with John Glennon of Sports Illustrated. John, how are we doing today, sir?
We are doing well. We're currently dealing with I-40 traffic, so you might hear a little, cursing and background noise. But
Okay.
besides that,
So we'll have Lucas with his finger on the dump button there.
Oh, okay. So that's why you're not coming in studio. You had some errands to run today. You had to run and go get some milk and toilet paper and stuff.
oh my goodness, it's out of control. It's out of control. This I-40 stuff coming in from Bellevue, but we'll persevere.
Yes, indeed. So I heard that you had a request that we do this whole segment as Mr. Adams, K.S. Bud Adams. That's what you wanted me to do?
That would be great if it's possible. If not, maybe 30 seconds or anything like that.
Yeah, Blaine says he's never heard it.
I've never heard it. So how about you do your first couple questions to JG with SportsIllustrated.com in the because I don't want you to hurt your vocals.
Right. These
first couple go rounds here, man.
Hello, boy. Is this thing on? Hello, John Glennon. How are you, sir? Good to see you. So
I'm well.
I'm glad to hear that. Robert Woods, is he good? Do we like him? What do you think of that trade, sir?
I like the Mr. Adams. I do indeed like the Robert Woods trade. What it is though is it's another kind of an if situation for the Titans, though, isn't it? Like, we've seen a number of ifs over the past few years in terms of like if he's healthy, if he comes back from injury, whether that was Bud Dupree or Julio Jones or Caleb Farley, or Jeffrey Simmons for that matter. It's pretty clear that John Robinson is willing to take a risk, on someone who's been hurt. This is no exception here. Now, you're dealing with a wide receiver who's going on 30 and coming back from an ACL injury, but if that, if he's healthy, I think it's a great move, because he was showing no signs of wear and tear due to age in terms of production. I mean, you talk about a guy who is averaging, 90 catches over 1,000 yards for the last few years. I think he's really an ideal complement for A.J. Brown in that regard. We all know how well he blocks in the run game. He brings veteran leadership to the locker room. So a number of good things about Robert Woods, but there is that question mark, of course, assuming that he comes back from the ACL.
So, John, and you're right. And when the Titans played the Rams on Sunday Night Football back during last season, in one of those availabilities, Mike Vrabel said that he was the best blocking receiver in the league, and I think he rated per Pro Football Focus as the number 1 guy last year. But let's flip the switch to Austin Hooper, the former Falcon and former Cleveland Brown, on a 1-year deal in a position they needed to address in a room that was getting thin.
I'm sorry, the I-40 is getting in a room that was getting.
That's all right. Austin Hooper's a Titan now. He spoke to the media this afternoon. He's here on a 1-year deal and in a position group in a room that was getting thin at St. Thomas Sports Park.
Thin. Okay, yeah, that's the word I missed. But yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think there was a lot of backlash from Titans fans when the team re-signed Jeff Swaim. And a lot of fans were very troubled, thinking, this is our guy, this is tight end 1 for next year, and that's certainly not the case, and I don't think that was ever going to be the case. And now I think you add what should be a very productive guy, a guy who had some huge years in Atlanta, catching passes from Matt Ryan. Not as productive in Cleveland the last couple of years. But, just judging from the comments he made at today's presser, he sounds like a guy who is hungry and who kind of wants to get back some of those bigger numbers. It sounded like he was a little confused the last couple of years in Cleveland as to why they would give him a big deal and then not necessarily use him as much as he thought they would in the offense. So I think he's got some good potential there. I think you've got a good room now with Swaim and with Hooper. And I solid tight end in what is a very deep tight end class coming up here in the draft, you've done some real impressive work, I think, in that tight end room, and all of a sudden a position that was looking kind of barren is looking much better right now.
Yeah, and you're right, because this tight end group this year in this draft, while there's not like a top flight guy that will be taken on the first round Thursday night part of it, there's a lot of guys in the middle rounds who are talented and can help you, and more importantly, more pure tight ends that are not just the pass catchers like we've seen in the last several drafts, but they're actually decent inline blockers, some of them really good.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We all know how important, blocking ability is to the Titans, because they've been so focused on the running game with Derrick Henry, understandably. And when I was up at the scouting combine, recently, it was the day for the tight end prospects. And really, I went down in a line, went to about 5 or 6 prospects in a row. And, you always ask the question, hey, have you talked to the Titans? And, sometimes you get a yes, sometimes you get a no. Well, I went to about 5 or 6 guys in a row that had talked to the Titans. So it's pretty clear they're not surprisingly doing a lot of research on the tight end front. And as you say, I don't think the Titans have to, use a first-round pick, certainly not, or even a third-round pick in order to get a good quality tight end out of the draft. You're looking at 2 fourth-round picks the Titans have, and my guess is maybe the first one, maybe the second one is going to be used to bring in a good tight end there.
Well, with John Glennon with SI.com, Titans writer for SI for sure, JG. I guess a little under the radar is Cunningham restructured his contract, and I'm just interested, is that more so for 1 year, in that I know he has still the length of his contract, but when you start looking at the numbers, seems like a kind of just a 1 year deal, and then we'll revisit it come the next season?
I think that's basically the case, and really what that contract did, or the restructure did for the Titans is 2 things. One, obviously it gave them immediate cap space, where they could make these kind of moves, where they could grab an Austin Hooper, and that type of deal. But I think it did at least solidify, the future for Zach Cunningham, for at least a year, because there was also the thought, the temptation that if the Titans really wanted to get cap room, they could have cut Zach Cunningham, no dead money, and saved about $10 million too. So they could have gone in that direction. Instead, they chose to restructure. My sense is they really like what they saw from Zach Cunningham. Stepped right into the starting lineup, played well. And the fact that they hired Bobby King as inside linebackers coach, who was Zach Cunningham's former coach with the Texans, I don't think that can hurt either in terms of Zach Cunningham's production. So I think it helps. The restructure helps immediately, and I do think Zach Cunningham, assuming he continues to play as he did last year, is going to be around here for a bit.
Well, JG, do you think they're done as far as in the free agent market when it comes to, let's just say, offensive tackle, or do you think they're going to go in a different direction with that position, or are they done?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think the 2 positions that kind of pop out right now, I still think they need a wide receiver in the draft. Even with Woods, and even if Woods is healthy, I still think, you'd like to add a speed element. That's, not necessarily Woods' forte. I'm not saying he's slow, but not necessarily a real speed guy either. So I think that's certainly one potential. And then, offensive line, you're losing 2 starters. Roger Saffold is gone, and David Quisenberry hasn't been re-signed either. So you need to make a move there. I kind of think that they are looking more towards the draft at this point. They just don't have a lot of cap room at this point. But you never know. There are still restructures that could be made to save a little bit more cap room. And again, maybe you're looking at taking one more swing at that guard position. Or maybe even adding another wide receiver at that point. We'll see.
Well, I know it was breaking news earlier, right when we got on air, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on the Matty Ice trade to the Colts, and then now that they're going to be playing the Titans a couple years, let alone there's conversation that maybe him and Julio would have a reunion there with the Colts. Who knows? But man, what are your thoughts on Matty Ice to the Colts and what he brings to their team?
Yeah, I mean, the Colts are kind of back at square one once again. For the umpteenth year in a row since Andrew Luck left. In terms of trying to find a starting quarterback, and we all know that Matt Ryan is not going to be the long-term solution because he is closing in on 37 years old. But I think that's a good move for the Colts given the circumstances. And, one of the reasons, too, let's remember that, that Frank Reich, worked pretty well with an old quarterback, Phillip Rivers, a couple of years ago. So I think he certainly knows how to tool an offense for a veteran quarterback, a guy who's, not overly mobile up there. And I think, if I'm a Colts fan, I like, Matt Ryan back there much better than I like Carson Wentz, honestly. I mean, Wentz has more mobility, but, I don't think Matt Ryan is as prone to making those awful decisions as some, that we saw from Carson Wentz. So, yeah, I think that's a decent move for a Colts team that's, pretty well stocked outside of the quarterback position, and maybe needing some wide receiver help as well. So we will see for the Colts coming up.
One other question, and Rhett can chime in here on this one as well, and being that I'm just a novice salary cap guy, because there's some parts of me feels like the cap is invisible, and there's other times like, oh, okay, I understand it, so then that means I really don't have any understanding of it at all. So kind of explain to, our listeners as well as to myself what the salary cap and how you maneuver and navigate within there in just premises. I heard someone the other day say that, I think I was listening to NFL Network and saying you could spend like 85% of the cap, and then going into the next year, you have to then restructure or redo other people's contracts. And then all of a sudden I go, well, dang, I don't feel like that's ever happened in the league. So just kind of give me the parameters of what the cap has to do, your salary cap, and then the numbers inside the numbers. If you know all that information, just tell me what you do know.
Yeah, it's kind of a tricky situation, of course, and certainly so for the Titans this year because they're kind of right up against that
Right.
salary cap. And, of course, all teams had to be, in compliance with the cap at the start of the new NFL year, which was, just a week or so ago. But the way the teams try to sort of, circumvent the cap a little bit, is by, for instance, this year with the Titans and Zach Cunningham, you restructure a contract. Well, Zach Cunningham is still going to get the same amount of money from the Titans in the long run. It's just kind of shifting how and when that money arrives. And by doing that, you create cap space. And, of course, another way to sort of circumvent the cap in some ways is to create what is known as void years in a salary. And we've seen that increasingly in recent years where you set up contract years or salary years on a contract that actually will never be paid, that actually don't take place. So, and I would have to be a master's in economics to give you every last detail probably, but that's another way that we have seen recently of teams kind of getting around the cap. But Titans are in a little bit of a jam right now. Again, I think it's not like they're desperate for a ton of players, but they're probably about $7 million over the cap right now, and that's without a few of the most recent contracts added there. So as you say, it's going to take some imagination and some creativity on the part of the Titans if they want to add some more free agents.
Well, with John Glennon, and he's given us the economic version of the salary cap, the supply and demand curve here, as well as Rhett now is going to give us his expertise in helping us out.
Well, and all I was going to say is that when a team restructures, you're giving that money up front in the form of a signing bonus to that player, and then that's deferred over the life of the contract, from what I understand. And then with that in mind, that's how we saw, the New Orleans of the world restructure 4 guys in one day and create almost $30 million worth of room when they thought they were in the middle of the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes to get his services. But I saw you mentioned in one of your pieces over the weekend, and you mentioned it just a moment ago, about there will maybe some other restructure candidates in terms of the Titans that are currently under contract. Who were some of the names you mentioned the other day? Because I saw that, but I forgot what you said.
Yeah, the ones that come to mind right off the top of my head, Bud Dupree's salary is a possibility. Derrick Henry, I think Taylor Lewan, and I'm not saying these are going to happen,
right,
but these are certainly potential kind of guys. And, some people wonder about Ryan Tannehill because he'll be making a lot of money. Well, kind of the point with Ryan Tannehill, though, is that the Titans restructured his deal last year to help bring in Julio Jones. That's why Ryan Tannehill's cap hit last year was so low, and that's why it went up astronomically this year. It's at about $38 million this year, and so people are saying, hey, why didn't the Titans cut Ryan Tannehill or trade Ryan Tannehill? Well, the reason is because they restructured his deal last year and made it almost impossible for them to cut him or trade him this year. So you have to be wary. It's easy to say, okay, let's just restructure everybody, and get all kinds of cap space this year, but you have to be wary because you're going to pay that money at some point. Even if you're not going to pay it right away this year, it's probably going to come back to bite you in the end. So, there's only so many deals you want to do, and if a player doesn't work out well the next year, and you can make the argument, obviously, that the Tannehill's year last season was not as good as the previous ones, and as I say, some people said, okay, let's move on. Well, all of a sudden you can't, because when you restructured for a good reason, you just don't have that flexibility all of a sudden.
Well, with that being said, there, John, have you changed your mind on what direction you think the Titans will go with their 26th pick if they stay there?
Well, the last little mock draft I had was way back pre-Harold Landry signing, and I had an edge rusher getting signed. So, yes, I'm changing my 26th pick in that regard. I think, as I said, I still think, wide receiver, even with Robert Woods, I still think that's a possibility. Get a young guy, a guy that offers speed, can scare defenses that way. I don't think you rule that out. Certainly, offensive line, whether that's another swing at a tackle or inside, a guy like a Zion Johnson is certainly very intriguing, I think, in that regard as well. So there's a possibilities. And then, you just can't completely quash the possibility that, maybe if the right quarterback is there, I don't think that would happen. I would lean against it. But now that you've maybe kind of boosted your team in a couple of areas that you had need, maybe you can at least look a little bit more at that quarterback of the future spot. And if you think that guy is, just for instance, we know that they were at the Kenny Pickett workout today. If you think that Kenny Pickett is a guy that could be your guy for the future, and if he's there, well, maybe you don't feel the absolute need to go wide receiver or interior line at that point. Maybe you take that swing at a quarterback. Again, I still don't think it's likely, but wouldn't completely rule it out.
Well, with John Glennon, with Titans writer for SportsIllustrated.com.
And with that thought in mind, if one of those guys is sitting there, maybe the phone's ringing, and maybe John Robinson trades down and gets a 2 back that he lost in the Julio Jones trade, and gets maybe a 4 to go with that, because I just have a feeling he likes the draft capital, and those middle rounds, you can get guards, you can get tackles, you can get tight ends, you can get wide receivers. I mean, in the places you need it, fortunately, they're rich in position. By the way, the Atlanta Falcons have agreed to terms with Marcus Mariota on a 2-year contract.
Ooh. Ooh, we don't have the numbers.
I do not have the numbers.
Oh,
and they're not out yet, but we'll see. It'll be,
that's intriguing, because obviously you make the connection. Marcus had good years here, and certainly very familiar with Arthur Smith. On the other hand, the last year that the two were together, things were not especially good. Maybe that had to do with Marcus's health. Maybe maybe it was just a decline in play. We don't know, but certainly makes sense, for a stopgap situation anyway for Atlanta. I don't think that's the the quarterback of the future. But it makes sense probably for not a ton of money without seeing the numbers for the Falcons. So yes, we were talking about that. Another quarterback question. I know, trading back too. Yeah, I would not be surprised at all to see the Titans move back. Of course, the only thing with moving back is you obviously have to have someone who's interested in moving up, and that doesn't always happen when you're at number 26. If you're in the top 10 or the 15, you're always going to have somebody who's knocking on your door saying, "Hey, I'm interested in moving up," but not necessarily happen as much as the 26. But yeah, if that quarterback is there and another team likes it, yeah, I think John Robinson would certainly be interested in adding some picks, getting that second-round pick back, and maybe even adding another third.
Excellent stuff, John Glennon. You can find him at Glennon Sports. I believe that's right, on Twitter. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
The man from SI.
Yes, and I greatly appreciate your use of the Mr. Adams voice.
Well, you're quite welcome, son. All right, John Glennon, thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay,
Appreciate your time, JG.
We will be back to wrap up Blaine and Mickey with Rhett Bryan filling in for Mickey Ryan next on 104.5 The Zone. Blaine and Mickey back on 104.5 The Zone. Rhett Bryan in for Mickey Ryan, but the Hitman rolling right along here through this 2 o'clock hour in the Music City. And, man, the news is flying left and right. So,
But the biggest news that we have not touched on, I have to say this. Belmont versus Tennessee in women's basketball will be tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
See the ladies battle
Lucas
tonight.
didn't have to whisper in my ear either, by the way.
No, you brought that up earlier. I will
that's a
vouch
big
for you
game,
on
man.
that.
I'm all in on that, man. That's always in state like that. That's awesome.
The Lady Vols and the
Bruins.
Lady Bruins, absolutely. No, that's I watched some women's college basketball over the weekend. I like both tournaments. I think you can really get some entertainment out of there, and it's always better. I learned a long time ago. I quit filling out brackets. You just get disappointed.
Oh yeah, man. This is why I don't gamble, because my bracket is shot. I'd be so heartbroken.
And I don't watch enough college basketball, and everybody says, "Well, you don't have to." It's like, but
I always go with the names, and that fails me every time. Oh, man.
Well, there's some ladies out there going, they have really cute uniforms, and they're the ones that have the Final Four right.
Yeah, but would that be like my wife? Yeah. Every time I'm like,
I love their color contrast. Yeah. It's really, their color combo together is really good.
Though, is blue has been in the colors of, Lucas probably helped me out, of maybe the national champion most of the time, 80% of the last 10 years or something.
I mean, you think about it. Just think about
the uniforms. They got some form of blue in it.
Yeah, I mean, North Carolina, Duke,
Kentucky,
Gonzaga.
Yeah, that's right, the Zags.
Baylor, the exception last year.
Yeah.
But
Baylor was the exception last year.
But, I mean, there's a lot with blue in the uniform. You're right.
Well, guess who won't have on blue or black? Oh, no, he still will be wearing black. Marcus Mariota going to the Falcons. He will have on black again, just a different.
On a 2-year deal per Ian Rappaport. And so I'm with you. I'm interested to see the money in this. And obviously with them picking up a over $40 million dead cap hit in monies in the part of the deal to trade Matt Ryan for a third-round pick to the Indianapolis Colts, $40.5 million dead money. I would think that Marcus wouldn't get a ton, but we saw what Jameis Winston reported earlier today. It was a 2 years, 28 with $21 million guaranteed.
Ooh, yeah, he can't be too far from that number.
I wouldn't think so. And look, who do they have to thank for that? Aaron Rodgers. I mean, good Lord, $50 million a year. But
he got nuts and bolts.
He got what you always call bamboozled.
Yeah,
because I mean, here he is ready to roll, and then Davante Adams goes to play with his boy from college and play with Derek Carr and the Las Vegas Raiders.
And the new stadium.
And got paid.
Yeah, what did he get, 25? What did he get? I don't know.
Oh, I think it was average $28 million a year.
20.
It was DeAndre Hopkins money.
So, nuts and bolts. He got screwed there, old Aaron Rodgers. What if he knew in the back of his mind that this was a possibility, especially after he signed? And
when you want all the shekels, it's got to be, right?
Right, because I'm sure he's communicating with his partner in crime.
The word is that he knew about them potentially
so.
Trading him. So
it could be a positive, because I'm sure Davante Adams told him how much he's disgruntled with how this whole negotiation is gone, and so he may force himself and try to get out of there. So
in the last couple of minutes here of Blaine and Mickey, I do not remember a free agency period of the National Football League in not even its first week yet, because it was last Wednesday afternoon. As crazy as this. And it always centers around quarterbacks, but look at the quarterbacks that have changed addresses, and then the star players on top of that went different places.
Oh, this has to be the first time in NFL history starting quarterbacks domino effect of all the different moves. Yeah. Even with, Tom Brady even coming back.
You get the whole deal out of Aaron Rodgers out of the way, and he re-signs for $200 million, 4 years, with the Packers. Then it was like, okay, then what about Davante Adams?
Then it was Russell Wilson.
Right, and then Russell Wilson, it becomes a Bronco. And so it's like, okay, now what's left? Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson was not found guilty of anything criminally in front of a grand jury. So now it's the civil part of things. And as soon as the criminal element went away, the Sharks were swimming in the water. I mean, you had all these teams, reportedly it was 5 or 6 teams vying for his services, interviewing with him. as a prospective new place because he had a no-trade clause, and then he ends up going to the Cleveland Browns after it was reported it was dead for a while there during the last 2 or 3 days.
Mm-hmm. Then you had the Baker Mayfield meme of him crying like Michael Jordan on Twitter.
And basically telling Cleveland goodbye because they were interviewing and shopping with Deshaun Watson.
His feelings got hurt.
Just
sit back and relax and extend their time to get rid of you like Matty Ice. Learn a few things if you're watching, paying attention.
Yeah,
That's what he
yeah, like I said, the silent treatment, it's a little, you got to pick your spots. He didn't pick a good spot there.
Yeah, he could be without a job here at the end. Like when I say that, I'm talking about like a trade. Like he could be sitting back here and he will be competing for a job somewhere because they have to cut him at some point if they don't trade him or get the what they think he deserves they deserve to get for him. So
you got to think it's Seattle though, doesn't it?
And
it just whether Seattle can wait him out or not because they know money's what's going to rule the whole thing. And it's like Cleveland,
hey man,
we got some capital after trading off Dangerous, but we don't have to give it all. We got to wait you out.
Everything's all about competition. And he will say, you'll come in here and you're going to be competing with Locke, knowing that he should beat him out, but he will not. They will be rotating at the first string and all of that. That's how Carroll works, man. This guy acts like he's 30 years old and runs around practice with the music blaring like he got no tomorrow. Like, hey, man, I'm going to be here forever.
But I've never seen a free agency window like this.
Yeah,
this has just been 14
It's
kinds
great
of
for
crazy.
what we do, though.
Oh, my gosh, it's gold. Are you kidding
I've never
me?
seen anything like this in my lifetime, let alone Lucas's lifetime.
Yeah, no doubt.
Definitely not my life.
Hey, I've enjoyed filling in with you
it's
on
been
your
fun,
show
man.
today. This has been good.
All right, but in the meantime, in between time, we want to hear Mr. Adams' voice on the way out.
Coming up next, boys, it'll be the 3HL crew here on your home for Titans football and the Vols, 104.5 The Zone.
The late, great Mr. Adams.